Hello students. So in today's lecture we are going to study about approaches to study tribal society in India. First of all, we need to know how this study is being conducted and for what purpose. Basically, studying tribal societies, it provides insight into historical, socio-cultural, economic and political dimensions of Indian society. In this, it also helps in comprehending the fabric of Indian civilization. Overall, we get help, we get aid in addressing socio-economic disparities. We can promote social inclusion, and also we can foster cultural diversity within Indian society. But before understanding the approaches, how tribals were being treated in this country, we need to have some understanding of it. Tribal communities, they exhibit wide diversity in terms of language, in terms of culture, in terms of traditions, customs, and socio-economic practices. And these development are influenced by their geographical location, their ecological settings, their historical events, and their interactions with neighboring communities. The historical diversity of tribal communities highlight the need of nuanced approach to studying and understanding their socio-cultural dynamics. During British rule, the study of tribal societies was often influenced by colonial agendas, focusing on their administration, resource exploitation, and cultural assimilation. Post independence, there was a shift towards understanding these tribal societies in more holistic and inclusive manner. And this was done to acknowledge historical injustice and advocating for their socio-economic development. To study this, we need to also understand the significance of understanding the historical context of studying tribal societies. When we study tribal societies, it provides insight into present day socio-cultural, economic, and political realities. Historical experiences influence contemporary challenges faced by tribal societies, including land alienation, displacement, poverty, and cultural erosion. The study of tribal society and its historic development, including approaches adopted during British rule and post-independence, they provide valuable context for understanding the challenges and opportunities faced by tribal communities, particularly when we are talking of in the realm of entrepreneurship. Tribal entrepreneurship can benefit from this historical understanding by we can make informed policy and strategy. We can identify the opportunities and constraints, the unique opportunities and constraints faced by tribal entrepreneurs. There could be promotion of promoting cultural sensitivity could be there. So entrepreneurs can leverage these tribal traditions, values, and network while respecting cultural norms and preferences. The approaches to studying and developing tribal people in India can be categorized into three types: the isolationist approach, the assimilation approach, and the integration approach. Let me give a brief description of each approach. What are the key features of it? When I say isolationist approach, it means that to study tribal communities, we often neglect their development requirements, and they are studied in isolation. Their communities are kept apart from mainstream society. There is limited interaction, and there is also a neglect of their development in terms of like access to education, healthcare, infrastructure, and economic opportunities. The isolationist approach preserve the traditional lifestyle, culture, and practice of tribal communities by minimizing external interferences. There is limited integration of tribal communities into broader socio-economic and political fabric of the nation. The next is your assimilation approach. As the term assimilation, it means that tribal groups accept the mainstream culture completely, eroding their own culture. It's like blending them into larger society. In the past, such like Hindu society has demonstrated that the tribal society, they are integrated into the Hindu society. In this, there could be also forced relocation, moving tribes from their land to new areas where they are expected to adopt mainstream way. It could be teaching the children of tribal people the majority cultural language, their history, their values, and neglecting their own heritage. There is cultural separation into it. Cultural separation means that banning tribal policies or languages that don't match mainstream culture. There is economic integration into it. Sometimes they are done to exploit these tribal resources. There is also a legal and political assimilation in terms of that law and governance of the dominant society is being imposed on the tribal people. So both the approaches, the isolationist approach and the assimilation approach, are extremes, but there is a middle way out. Middle way out is your integration approach. In this, we merge tribal communities into broader society while still honoring their unique identities and culture. The approach concentrates on narrowing the divide between tribal and mainstream societies and recognizing and appreciating tribal traditions while also offering avenues for their economic and social progress. In this, the key elements of this integrationist approach is respect for tribal identity, the acknowledgement of tribal customs, and it is a kind of bridge building effort to focus on fostering connections and understanding between tribal and mainstream communities. Unlike isolation, the integration approach actively works to provide opportunities for tribal communities to participate in and benefit from the broader economy and social structure. The policies that are made are inclusive. It employs or emphasizes the importance of inclusive policy and programs that considers the unique need and aspirations of tribal communities. Overall, the integration approach strives to create a more inclusive and equitable society where tribal communities can thrive while maintaining their cultural heritage and identity. It seeks to bridge the gap between tribal and mainstream societies, fostering understanding, cooperation, and shared prosperity. Apart from these three approaches, there are also interdisciplinary approach that has been done to study the tribal communities, and these approaches are derived from various disciplines like from anthropology, from sociology, from history, from political science, from economics, so from geography, from cultural studies. Every perspective have been given by different schools, different schools of thought, and according to that also tribal communities can be understood in a proper way. One of the example, like how does anthropology contributes to studying of tribal society? The anthropological approach is basically understanding the origin and development of human societies and culture, and focus is on understanding tribal societies. It could be through participant observation, it could be through cultural analysis. Post independence, anthropologists have explored aspects such as cultural, social, historical, and development dynamics within tribal communities. Another school is your sociology. It also gives its own perspective how to study the tribals. Sociologists They have analyzed tribal societies in terms of social structure, their relationship, the institutions and interactions within larger social context. They have examined issues such as social stratification, power dynamics, identity formation, and social change within tribal communities post independence. Even historians also give their own approach to study tribals. The historians have traced the history of tribal societies in India, including their origin, their migration, and interaction with other groups, even their socio-political developments over time. Post-independence, historians have explored colonial legacies, tribal histories, environmental histories, and regional histories to understand dynamics of tribal communities. The next school is your political school. It also contributes to understanding of, or it helps in understanding the tribal society. The political science approach, they have analyzed societies in terms of political organization, their governance structure, the decision making process, the interaction with the state institutions. They have examined issues such as tribal representation, identity politics, federalism, conflict resolution, and policy advocacy. Another school is economics. They also help in understanding the tribal societies. Economists have studied tribal societies by analyzing their economic activities, like their livelihood strategies, their resource utilization pattern, their socio-economic development indicators. So, post independence, this school became very popular of understanding the tribals. Post independent economists have examined issues such as development economics, livelihood strategies, natural resource management, market integration, public policy, and entrepreneurship within tribal communities. Even geographists have also helped in understanding the tribal societies. Geographicers, they have studied tribal societies in relation to their geographical locations, their natural environment, their land use pattern, settlement pattern, resource distribution, environmental challenges. Post independence, dear students, the geographicals have focused on geographical redistribution, development plans, resource management, accessibility, connectivity, research, and documentation of tribal areas. Then there is cultural studies approach. Scholars in cultural studies have explored the tribal societies through their interdisciplinary perspective, focusing on cultural representation, their identity politics, their language, literature, art, music, folklore, cultural expression of their resilience capacities among tribals. So, after post independence, what we see and what it was during British era, Britishers had kept the tribal communities isolated, while post independence various schools have contributed in understanding the tribals, and these approaches have contributed in understanding tribal societies in post independence arena, addressing various aspects like socio-cultural aspect, economic aspect, political, their geographical realities. They have informed the development policies that needs to be adopted, the advocacy efforts that is aimed to promoting the well-being and empowerment of tribal communities, and how these tribals could be integrated into larger societies. The economic approach, let me focus on it as our course is basically mostly on the economic aspect of studying of tribal entrepreneurship. What does it needs to study and how does it study the economic approach? The economic approach to studying tribal societies, it involves analyzing various aspects of their economic activities, their livelihood strategies, resource utilization pattern, the socio-economic development indicators. Since India gained independence, economists have delved into several key issues concerning tribal communities. The development economists, they have examined the broader development challenge faced by tribal societies, including poverty, inequality, lack of infrastructure, and access to basic services. They have studied the impact of development policies and programs on tribal communities and assessed their effectiveness in addressing socio-economic disparities. Another key issue concerning tribal community is livelihood strategy. Economists have investigated the diverse livelihood strategies employed by tribal communities, including their traditional occupations such as agriculture, forestry, hunting, gathering, handicraft. They have been analyzed how these livelihoods have evolved over time and responded to change in the socio-economic environment. Another issue concerning tribal communities is natural resource management. Economists have focused on the sustainable management of natural resources in tribal areas, including land, forest, water, and minerals. They have examined issues related to land tenure, property rights, resource governance, environmental conservation, and considering the ecological significance and socio-economic implication for tribal communities. Another issue is market integration. How these economists study this market integration of tribal economies into regional and national market. They have analyzed market participation, the trade network, market access, price fluctuations, and the role of infrastructure in facilitating economic integration. They have also explored the challenges and opportunities arising from market integration for tribal communities. Another key issue concerning tribal communities is public policy. Economists have evaluated public policies and development interventions targeting tribal communities. They have assessed programs related to poverty alleviations, employment generations, land reforms, education, healthcare, and infrastructure development. They have analyzed the impact of these policies on tribal livelihoods, economic well being, and social inclusion. The most and vital topic for concerning for tribal communities is the entrepreneurship. Economists have examined entrepreneurship and economic empowerment initiatives within tribal communities. They have studied the factors influencing entrepreneurship development, access to finance, skill training, market linkage, and business support service. They have also explored the role of entrepreneurship in poverty reduction and community development. Through empirical research, econometric analysis, and policy evaluation, economists have contributed to better understanding of economic dynamics and the challenges faced by tribal communities in India. Their work has informed policy formulation, policy implementation, and they have advocated for promoting inclusive and sustainable economic development for tribal population. The entrepreneurship within the tribal communities have garnered attention from economists who have scrutinized various aspects of economic empowerment initiatives. Their focus areas and the contribution have been regarding what are the factors that influence entrepreneurship development among tribals. Economists delve into these factors that fosters or hinder entrepreneurship within tribal communities. They examine elements such as cultural norms, access to resources, education level, infrastructure, regulatory framework, and market conditions that shape the entrepreneurial landscape. Another is access to finance. Economists analyze the availability and accessibility of financial resources for tribal entrepreneurs. They explore the role of formal banking institutions, microfinance initiatives, community based savings and credit groups, and government schemes in promoting capital and credit facilities to tribal entrepreneurs. The skill training. Economists investigate the importance of skill development and vocational training programs for tribal entrepreneurs. They assess the effectiveness of skill building initiatives in enhancing entrepreneurship capabilities, fostering innovations, and improving business management practices among tribal communities. Economists also explore the strategies to facilitate market linkage for tribal entrepreneurs. They examine avenues for accessing local, regional, national, and international market for tribal products and services. They also analyze the role of marketing channels, value chain, e-commerce platforms, and networking opportunities in expanding market reach and tribal enterprises. Economists assess the need for effectiveness of business support service tailored to specific need of tribal entrepreneurs. They examine the role of business incubators, mentorship program, technical assistance, advisory services, access to information in nurturing entrepreneurial ventures and overcoming challenges. Economists investigate the impact of entrepreneurship on poverty reduction and community development within tribal societies. They assess the contribution of tribal entrepreneurs to income generation, employment creation, wealth accumulation, and socio-economic empowerment at the individual, household, and community level. Through rigorous research, data analysis, and policy recommendations, economists contribute to deeper understanding of dynamics of entrepreneurship within tribal communities. Their insight inform the design and implementation of targeted interventions, capacity building initiatives, and policy framework aimed at fostering inclusive and sustainable development among tribal population. Thank you. Thank you very much.